just don't see that as being that important. It's a good question, though. Satchmo says, why did Ian Botham's peak last for only around 4 years? I think there's a few things. I don't think he took cricket particularly seriously in the way that I think he was so much more talented than everyone else. He probably didn't put everything in. Obviously, he'd let his body completely go. He went from being one of the best athletes we'd ever had in cricket to not being one of the best athletes. I also think that the West Indies probably dented, maybe not his confidence, but a lot of that early peak, I don't think any of that early peak comes against peak West Indies, does it? I'm trying to think of, I have to go back and check, but I think it was his first 28 or 33 tests or 35 tests, or whatever it was probably before he ran into the West Indies. They probably sorted him out a little bit as well. And you know, those sorts of things happen. But I honestly believe that if he looked after his body, looked after his game, I think he could have gone on to have a much better career in the second half than he did in the first half. He was still, you know, the fact that he played so long and took so many wickets and still played some very good, important innings after that tells you that it wasn't like a Tim Bresnan situation, or maybe what we're seeing with someone like Shardul at the moment. Well, you know, this was a generational talent who probably just didn't focus on the game in the way that he should have. Because he was probably good enough to cruise, right? And some players do that. You know, I think Dan Brennick has this theory, and I think I've looked at it before, that Dean Jones, if you look at Dean Jones's record up until the point he was #1 in the world, and then afterwards in one-day cricket, it's a completely different player. And what he did was, to get to #1 in the world, he took all these chances and played like a maverick and played like a combination, really, of, I suppose, what Ricky Ponting became and what Javed Miandad was doing beforehand. You know, and then he gets to #1 and you see him slow down. And I'm not sure if Dino ever talked about this, but there's absolutely no doubt that once he got there, it changed the way he thought about things. And I wonder if a similar thing happened in a different way for Ian Botham. Once he was sort of, you know, this incredible player, if that was enough for him and he knew he'd be able to sustain that. Not everyone, you know, not everyone tries to get the most out of themselves. And, you know, he had a lot of interests in life. I think that's fair to say.